Wow, I'm going to record this section. So Emily, I'm going to send this to you. I just finished talking about what we talked about yesterday, and this is the part I promised I would record for her since she was excused for today due to a schedule conflict. But anyway, I love the question, who do you know? Number one is very simply ask for exactly what you want. There's a saying that life doesn't give you what you deserve. Life gives you what you ask for, negotiate, and close on. So ask for what you want. What I mean by that, I have reps all the time tell me like, oh, I can't get appointments between 9 and 5. Everybody's at work. I can only get appointments at night. By the way, less than 50% of all Americans work 9 to 5, which means that if you believe that everybody, right, you're missing out on 58% of your prospective customers. So the real question, thank you, isn't, are there people home during the day? The real question is, how do I get to them? You guys tracking with me? Here's how you get to them. You just ask your customers that you're meeting at night, hey, who do you know who's home during the day? Who do you know who's home during the day? By the way, once you get a couple of them, guess who all their friends are? People who are also home and available during the day. That's who they literally hang out with. All right, you only need a couple. Ask your friends or customers, who do you know who's home during the day? For me personally, when the virtual demo was first invented and it was new, I really wanted to sell Cutco in Alaska. No good reason, except that everybody else was selling Cutco in Florida and California and Texas. And I was like, screw all that, man. I want to sell Cutco in Alaska. Ain't nobody doing that. So I was, by the way, I was living in Northern Virginia, like the Fairfax area. And I was asking the customers, I was showing Cutco. I was like, who do you know who lives in Alaska? I got 20 referrals for people in Alaska from people living in Virginia. Right? I wasn't even asking like the people I got in Alaska from more people in Alaska. I was asking people in Virginia, and I got 20 people in Alaska. It was great. Made sales in Alaska. It was awesome. But you could do that with anything. Like, who do you know who lives in Wisconsin? I really want to sell Cutco in Cheeseland. Great, do it. Right? Who do you know who lives in North Dakota? Find them. They exist. Right? Doesn't matter. If there's something that you like. So there was a time in my life I was like really into exotic cars or sports cars. Really my favorite were muscle cars. I'd rather have like an old 67 Shelby Cobra GT 500 than a 2019 Lamborghini any day, personally. But I was asking my customers, I was like, who do you know who has really nice cars? Muscle cars, exotic cars, don't care. Who's got a nice car? And actually, Kayla was with me when I got one of those referrals, and the customer actually had a Shelby Cobra and a pig, also a pig, but mostly a Shelby Cobra. It was great. It was awesome. Wow, it was like a really rich 19-year-old kid who had bought himself a Shelby Cobra. I sold his parents a lot of Cutco. It was great. Yeah. It was great. You made a lot of money too. Yeah. And then I was hanging out with the car. Kayla at the same time was playing with her pig. It was weird. So fun. But it started with me just asking the question, who do you know who has nice cars? Does that make sense? Some of you guys, like, you really love dogs. Actually, I've done this before because my wife is allergic to everything, right? So I've asked my customers, like, hey, who has a dog that I could play with? And then they're like, oh, I know lots of people with dogs, right? Sometimes I'll ask them, and I joke around, but I'm being serious. I'm like, I don't really like cats, but I would pet them too. Who's got cats? So I get all the dog people, then there are done a couple cat people, right? Here's a really good one. Here's one that you guys need to be asking the question. If you know like a really nice neighborhood where everybody's got money, the homes are big, right? Just start asking people who lives in those neighborhoods. Okay, so my mother-in-law lives in Northern Virginia. I got recommended to her entire neighborhood. Actually, I started off with my mother-in-law and some of her immediate neighbors, and then I started branching out and getting more and more and more. Eventually, I literally had one lady. She was like the rudest lady I've ever met in my life, like really rude and not a kind human. But at the end of the appointment, I still asked for referrals. And I started name dropping, like, oh yeah, I've already seen so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. I just name dropped so many of her neighbors. She was so like, you know what? Here, just take my neighborhood directory. Sounds like you're going to see all of us anyway. And I was like, thank you. It was like 275 referrals. But I don't give her credit because she just handed me a directory. I give the guy who actually hand wrote 154 more credit. But she literally gave me her entire neighborhood directory. And I was like, thank you. This is great. That was awesome. What else? Oh, so anyway, in my mother-in-law's area, I got her whole neighborhood. But there is a neighborhood about a mile and a half-ish away where the houses are amazing. Like every house is like 1.2+ million in sales. They start at in the 750s, but by the time you're actually done, they're in the millions. And I just started asking. I was like, hey, who do you know in that neighborhood? Like, I really want to go in there. I really want to see the people. I started asking. And as I started doing this, it was like, I don't know those people. I don't know those people. I don't know those people. And then I found a lady. She goes, I know a couple of them. And I got 2 of them. And then I got the 2. Then I was in. And then I started asking them, like, hey, I want to meet more of your neighbors. And then I ended up getting all the neighbors. And I've seen now, today, I've seen about 70% of that neighborhood. You guys tracking with me, though? Right? But either way, ask for what you want. Another fun one, this is a good idea to jot down. I ask for weird stuff just to get people thinking. Like, for example, I ask, can you give me 3 people who wear sunglasses and 1 person who wears hats? Like, hey, can you give me 2 people who are super into health and fitness and 2 people who are fat? Can you give me 2 blondes, 2 brunettes, and 1 redhead? Actually, just kidding. I like redheads. Can I get 2 of those? Doesn't matter. You guys tracking with me, though? Right? Can you give me 2 of these and 1 of these? Can you give me 3 of these and 2 of these? And all I do is I draw opposites, whatever it is. Right? 2 people with long hair, 1 who's bald. 3 people with curly hair, 2 with straight hair. Doesn't matter. But in all seriousness, as I just did that with you guys, didn't all of you have a couple names pop in your head like right now as I was doing it with you? Right? Maybe not all of them triggered something, but I bet a couple of them did. Same exact thing happens with your customers. Does that make sense? Give me 3 dog people, 2 cat people. Give me 1 who's got a lizard. Makes sense, yeah? But all I do is if I got my 1 or my 5 or whatever, I'll start asking these questions and they'll build a list. Right? And they'll write and write and write. But you don't stop asking until they say no. Okay, don't stop asking until they say no. One that I learned from John Tevis that he taught to Kevin fell in love with. Whatever your customers give you, tell them that you hate that number. Right? Like sometimes they'll write down 3. He's like, oh man, I hate prime numbers. You got to get at least a 4. Customers get to 4. He's like, oh man, I hate even numbers. You got to at least get to 5. Customer gets to 5. Oh, we're at a prime number again. You got to get to 6. Right? Oh, I hate even numbers. You got to get to 7. Oh, 7's a prime number. Right? But literally, I've seen John do this. Prime number, even number. Prime number, even number. He's built it to 10. Great. Does that make sense? But either way, whatever they give you, always ask for more. And then the last thing is use your resources. Resources being free stuff. You know that you can give a veggie peeler just for texting 15 people. But I've had customers, especially the more they buy, the more they can get for free. And I've had customers where I'll give them a little bit of free stuff to close the sale, but I'll give even more free stuff for referrals. And I'll give more free stuff for referrals than I gave to close the sale, because people will give you referrals to help you, but they will give you large numbers of referrals when there's something in it for them. Does that make sense? Okay. And then one of the final tips I'll give you is use your notebook as social proof. And we talked about this last week, but we talked about how your notebook, the first 3 pages should all have 20+ names and numbers on them. So I make it a point to flip through those pages and let the customers see them before I get to their page. Right? So I show them several pages that have got 20+ on them before I go to their page. So that now what do they expect is normal? 20. Yes, if you don't give them any frame of reference, they don't know that 5.7 is even the average. They don't know how many you're actually expecting. But if you show them multiple pages with 20, it is social proof saying that 20 is the number. You guys feel good about that? Let me pause there. Any questions on any of that stuff? Good? All right. Here's what I'd like to do then. Not page 8, it's actually page 11. But I'd like you to role play page 11. specifically asking the who do you know who questions. I don't care which ones you ask, right? Alaska, Montana, doesn't matter. If you're asking for daytime people or cat people and dog people, whatever. Why don't you practice asking